podcast show. A lot of League of Legends talk today. Whole lot of stuff went down. I understand a lot of esports stuff went down, but right now the world's it's kind of the big thing. Just like how it would be for the international and other stuff. So I got with me Luzod. Luzod, how you doing, man?
Hey there, Taro. I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing good, doing good. It's a little rainy out here today. Um,
I know the feeling.
yeah. Real quick, the picture you showed me. It looks like you play a little poker, huh?
Oh, yeah, I'm actually, I'm a poker pro, actually.
Are you really?
Yeah, yeah.
That's awesome. Like, all right, you got like how long it take you to become a professional at poker? You got to tell me the story real quick before we start talking about world and everything.
Wow, but for me it was sort of, actually I played poker online as, to a reasonable success and as, but not professionally, as an amateur that I just liked the game, so I played it for a lot of years. And this year, I decided I'll quit my job and try to pursue things I like better. So I started writing esports articles, and I decided to pursue poker as a career. So I joined Smart Backing, and here I am.
Wait, hold on. You quit your job for it?
Yeah,
Oh man, that's a huge risk. Like, damn.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But sometimes in life you have to take some risks to, at least I believe, to do what you really want. And I actually quit my job and started to. It wasn't all. It wasn't unplanned. I've been thinking. I thought about this for a few months, so I saved a little bit of money because I thought in the beginning it could be rough, and I looked for a team to join, and this year I joined Smart Backing, and here I am.
Nice, nice. Man, I wish I could do that. Just like quit my job and be like, all right, I'm just gonna gas bag for like lots of decent or even like a livable wage, and then work my way up. So good on you
Yeah.
for that. But yeah. So the world has been going on what the past 2 weeks now. We're gonna say 2 weeks.
I think so. Actually, I think if you consider the playing stage, it has been longer than that. But group stage has been 2 weeks. Yeah.
All right, and what has surprised you so far? Uh, After these 2 weeks, getting ready for the knockout stage.
Um. Well, I liked a few teams perform. I like a few individual performances, even from teams that failed to qualify to quarterfinals. Um. I was very surprised about Fnatic comeback on week two. From 0-3 to actually I think they lost 4 games in a row out of 6, and somehow they qualified to quarterfinals. So it was quite impressive. Um, Longzhou wasn't a surprise. I expected them to be really hot, but it's they are just confirming that. And to be honest, I've always been a fan of Yuzi from Royal Never Give Up. But the team had its ups and downs before, but this year at world stage specifically, they're showing a really great understanding of the game, and they are playing probably the best they played all year, I would say.
Oh, okay. So the Royal Never Give Up. Um, is that the team you're
Yeah,
going for right now, or you think they're the most shocking of them all? You think they can win it all, or no?
I think they have a chance, but it would be a. I think they do have a chance, but I don't think they will. I do believe they can actually get to the finals, especially on the brackets they got.
Oh, okay. What do they
But
have an easy bracket, or?
they actually have the team that I expect to be the second best on their side to the semifinals is SKT, and SKT is a great team. They are actually the greatest team of all time.
Mm-hmm.
but in League of Legends at least. But they had shown a lot of problems during group stage, and they had shown these problems before in LCK. And what they are worst at is what Royal Never Give Up excels.
All right.
So I expect this to be a very interesting matchup, and unless SKT can improve, which I actually believe, because they somehow you can never count SKT out. They always manage to come back. They always manage to surprise, and they always manage to win. But if we don't expect them to improve, if we expect to see something similar to what we saw in groups, I actually believe Royal Never Give Up can actually make the way to the finals.
Okay. You think they could pull it off against the finalists from the other bracket?
I'm not. I didn't understand. I'm sorry.
All right. So say Royal never gets up, makes it to the finals. Who would their best bet would be against?
Actually, I think they could. I think the worst team they can face in the finals is Longsu. I think Longsu is actually. Uh, they play a very similar style, but Longsu is probably better, and especially when at the points that Royal actually fails at times, and the weakness they've shown, Longzhu doesn't show that. Longzhu can actually beat them in their own game and actually do even better at what they are bad at. So
Oh,
I'd expect actually Longzhu to be the team to beat at Worlds.
so that would
Um,
be the team to beat at World. Excuse me, team to beat at Worlds.
yeah, Longzhu is definitely the best team. At least based on what they show so far.
Oh, all right, nice. So my question is, all right, so pretty much we got the knockout stage set up,
Yeah.
ready to go for next weekend.
Hmm.
Let's talk about what everyone's talking about pretty much right now, especially like in our chat and all over the internet and stuff. Is I don't know how to put it in a nice way, but it sounds like TSM just dropped the ball. They did a horrible job at their groups, their second group stage. I heard they were great. They were great their first week. Their second week literally knocked them out of contention.
Yeah, and that's actually something that we have to ask ourselves about all NA teams, except maybe for Cloud9, but still, NA never made it to the same finals on for the last. I am actually I've watched League since season 3, and I never saw an A team make it to the semifinals
Okay.
at Worlds. So that's something Europe has made it. Um, we have seen Chinese and Korean teams at finals, but we never saw an A make it past quarterfinals. And most often they fall on group stage. Last year they had exactly the same record. Um, all NA teams together have the had the it had exactly the same record for the first week, 6-3. I think, uh, but on the second week they've always dropped the ball. Last year they went 0-10, so they haven't won a single game on the second week last year. This year they went quite close to that,
Now,
and
now is it like? Do you have a just like a theory of why they're doing it? Like, I understand everyone's saying it's really, really, really common. So the issue, it seems like, is the team maybe itself. How long has TSM been together for?
yeah, TSM, the team, not these players, has been since season 1. So they have been here since forever.
Okay, how about
But
these group of players? I'm sorry.
since last year. Last year they went to Worlds with the exactly same group, and they went okay in the first week, and they lost all their games in the second week. I actually think I was thinking to myself, what's the problem with NA? And sometimes I'm actually thinking it's a lot of their problems is mindset. It's about their mentality about the game, not exactly anything they do specifically. I think sometimes I think they are losing to themselves. You know.
So they're just overthinking it. You're thinking like,
Not necessarily. I think the problems vary from some. They are often overconfident about their skills, and
mm-hmm.
it show in the game. And you can see if you watch this year, for example, TSM. The first week it went great, and they were saying, "Well, we humbled ourselves, and we're taking every opponent seriously."
Right.
And we are giving them credit and merit, and it went smooth in the first week. I was actually impressed. Then the second week came, and the first game we saw a lot of tweets from the players saying, "Oh, I all I can see is we're gonna win, win, win all games, and we're gonna destroy this group." So you can see the shift of mentality from week 1 to 2 when they since they did okay in the first week, they were actually very confident. And when they lost the first game, you can see that as the day progressed, they were looking more and more tilted, as we say.
Oh,
They
okay.
were doing a lot of more mistakes, and yeah, you can. On top of that, they had a lot of individual failures. They had some problems with the roster. I think their draft was really a problem, something to watch. But this is something that, since it's not something that is, since the NA teams have been bad at the second week, I believe it's a lot of mindset and uh, mental game, and also maybe they weren't adjusting their gameplay properly. I think there's a lot of factors to that, but I would say that if NA could improve their mental game, they would be a lot better at the game and at performing at worse stage than they are right now. And
So,
that not only TSM but Immortals also had the same problem. And actually, Cloud9 was not uh, showing the same weaknesses in their mental game. So I believe yeah, they seem a little shaky, but not as much as the other teams. So I believe that's one of the reasons they actually managed to make it through.
all right. So I don't know. Like, it's hard to say. Like, I don't want to say NA sucks because, well, I mean, they made it through. Like, they made it here after all
Yeah,
year, but it seems like they're having issues on the bigger stage. Um,
yeah, it's because every time I saw someone quote about that another day. He said every year NA comes really hyped and really think they're great, and they have a shot. We hear NA players and NA coaches and saying not the casters or people involved, because but we see that they actually believe they can win it all, and they barely make it out of groups. I think that's a part of the problem right there, because you have to, I think, to improve, you have to understand that you are failing and that you are behind other teams, or that some of these teams are actually just as good as you, and you have to try your best. Not only try your best, but respect what the other team is doing or
right.
does best. And for example, I'll give you an example right now. TSM, on their game against, I believe it was Team WE. Yeah, they TSM has always had this problem with this year with the early game. Their
Okay.
early game has been really, really weak. They actually managed to pick it up later on, and they get wins out of that. So they stalled the game in order to gather items, and they beat people with a better late game strategy.
Okay.
But there are two problems with that. First, TSM is not by any means the best late game team in the world. Actually, there are a lot of teams that can at least match what they are doing. Uh, so if you and those teams actually can make better early game decisions than TSM. So you have to you have to come prepared for that.
Okay.
And in their game against Team WE, Team WE is a great team late game. They have phenomenal team fighting. And that's something that all Chinese teams have, actually. Team fighting is a big thing in China. Um, and in their game against their last game against TSM, they drafted all early game champions. So they were there to win it early and just snowball and never get to the late game. So they did just that, and they won the game really quickly. And they just TSM couldn't do anything because TSM actually, instead of seeing, oh, we are they're actually drafting to the early game, so we should adjust our strategy and we should try to counter what they're trying to do, and we should draft a few winning lanes or at least one winning lane, so we can have some pressure in the game, and our jungler should actually try to help the laners and pick a early game jungler. Um, or could lane swap. They had options. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
They they chose not to do any of that. They actually just draft for the late game. So when you're weak in a part of the game and you're actually drafting to be even weaker at that, if while the other team is doing exactly the opposite. So you actually are giving your opponents all the tools to beat you, and that's exactly what happened.
So
And
so I'm sorry,
yeah,
but you're saying pretty much that uh TSM they didn't adapt to what they should have adapted to against their opponents. So pretty
yeah,
much.
and that's actually something that I think it's based on arrogance because it's not that the comp they made couldn't work. They could. They actually could get away with that against a weak team, uh, and or relatively weaker team. But Team WE is almost it's basically to their level. I'm not gonna judge how good one team or other is, but let's say they are exactly at the same level.
Okay.
You're giving your opponents all the tools to beat you early game and close the game really quickly, and you're actually bad at this stage of the game. So basically, you're saying, okay, so you can have everything you want,
Mhm.
and if you fail to do that, if you're not a good enough team to do that, or we're gonna eventually win. But you can actually do that when you're at Worlds. You can actually try to do that domestically against weak teams, against a lower seed team. Um, but you can actually try to do against the best team in the world because the best teams in the world. Because when you try to do that, the other team will not only take this advantage, but they will actually be able to close that. And you have to respect their ability to play the game, to understand the game, just as much as you do. So if you're giving them advantages right off the bat, because you think you're a superior player or you're a superior team, you are not. You are actually just giving up the game. And
Okay.
that's exactly how I feel about TSM. They
All right.
feel they're the better team, the better players, the better strategy, everything. And when they are just as good as the other team, so they gave all these advantages, and they just got smashed.
So I'm. So you said it's far common with you said NA, but specifically this team.
Yeah, specifically this thing. I said that the problem with NA is their mindset. Immortals had a different problem actually.
What's their problem?
Actually, I think most of their players never made to World Stage before, and they got quite nervous when they lost the first game, and they actually weren't trying to be proactive as they usually are, and they were just like, okay, let's just hold this game. Let's try not to lose instead of let's try to win,
Okay.
and they actually eventually lost. it's not the same problem. They were not thinking they were the best in the world. They were just a little scared not to make it through. So, and that actually is a mindset problem, but a different one.
Okay, so I mean, so they have more of a pass than TSM does because TSM they went there last year, the exact same team, and then
Yes.
they dropped the ball. The first time, all right, is experience just like Immortals was, but the second time they dropped the ball, and I mean, I don't know if you saw it today or not, but I guess they dropped the ball
Yeah.
so hard the coach left. Like,
Yeah, actually, I don't think the coach leaving is. Actually, I think there's a lot of pressure on the coach as well because TSM has probably the biggest fan base at all teams, of all teams.
mm-hmm.
So, and also they have most people that people say that you either love or you hate TSM, and that's actually usually true.
Oh, really?
Uh, yeah, because TSM fans have people say that, and actually that's quite true. I'm not saying all fans, but their fans have this reputation to claim their team's the best ever, like the best thing ever happened,
Mm-hmm.
and this actually annoy other teams on other other people actually. So and when the team fails, they also blame the players or the coaches, and they are always trying to find someone to blame, and there's a lot of pressure when you have such a big fan base and so active fans that um, it actually gives you puts a lot of pressure on the coach, on the players, and that's not everyone can handle that. So I actually don't. I'm not sure what made the coach leave, but I can see that this probably has influenced him and some of the players. It's probably it's additional pressure, you know.
Right. One of the things that like I'm looking at and I'm reading is he says there's I'm gonna read his tweet real quick. It says,
Sure.
quote, sorry to our fans, last year was an experience, but this year no excuse or but no excuses this year. That was my last time on stage. Okay.
Mm.
Like I believe I talked to Mitch about this last week is I believe more of the coaching helps, but it's not all the coaching's fault, but it's the coach doesn't take all the glory when they're successful. Like it's a team effort, especially in a MOBA game. It's a team effort. So
Yeah.
everyone's crying for blood for him, but it's not fully his fault. Like yeah, they could have done the draft a lot better, especially knowing that hey, I am playing to a earlier, a better team fighting, and we need to start drafting early so we can get like easy ganks and stuff. Make sure they're behind when the team fighting starts. It's the only way we're going to survive. Like we,
Yeah, it's not necessarily the only way they're going to survive. Actually, it's about how much you can manage. You know, when you're giving, it's you. I think TSM can do uh, could have done okay in their games if they had given a small advantage to the opposing team.
hmm
They could come back. There's so much you can be behind and actually come back. Um, but TSM was actually not only they draft for the late game, but they went all in late game, and so you if the other teams all for the early game, and actually I mean all TSM had three losing lanes. They were losing every lane,
right.
so basically when you're losing every lane, you're probably gonna lose all three outer turrets
hmm
first, and that's actually 3,000 goals or something like that.
Right.
And also, then the opposing team has 3,000 gold more. They are in a quite big advantage, and they can start pushing you even further. When you're facing a weak team, those teams won't be so decisive about that. So they will hesitate a little bit. They will they stall the game more. But teams at World State, they know already when they are ahead, uh, especially the best teams here. They will push you to the limits.
Yeah.
And Team WWE did exactly that. Once they got ahead, they never stopped. They just roll over TSM. And if you're a coach and or even a player, you actually have to think about that. You have to expect that to happen because yeah, this is not this sixth seed in NA. They are not the fifth best team in NA. They're not full of rookies or full of inexperienced players. They are not bad at macro game.
Right.
They actually understand the game just as well as we do, or even better.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to respect that, and let's not give them a big advantage. Can't actually roll over us if they with their tempo advantage.
Right. Okay.
Um,
Um. Sorry. I'm reading like this thing about them, and it seems like their mid is getting the most flack outside of the coach. Is there a reason why? If everyone was losing lane, it's like everybody's fault. Like,
yeah, no, they actually did. The players, some players in the did quite. I think Hunter was great in top lane,
mm-hmm.
and actually I think Svenskeren was terrible on the jungler position, but that's something else. Bjergsen has this problem that he is the big star for TSM. He's
Okay.
like the guy to watch. And he's always super hyped. He's considered the best mid lane in the West by many people.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't play bad, but he basically got even to their matchups. So he didn't actually carry TSM, and people were actually upset about that because when they needed him the most, he did basically what any mid laner is expected to do, at least broke even.
Right.
Um, I don't think he deserves that. I actually think I don't think his performance should be blamed. I can understand that the people were expecting a lot more, but the player himself didn't actually do bad. The team went fairly had a fairly poor
Mm-hmm.
overall strategy and everything. I
Right.
think other players had way more to blame than him, uh, and I actually think people are blaming to they're blaming the wrong person. I actually think that I did expect Bjergsen to do better,
Okay.
but he didn't hurt TSM in any way. He just couldn't do a miracle, basically.
So he couldn't. Pretty much what it was he's the best player on the team. Would you say?
Yeah, he's the best player in the team, and he's probably the best player in NA, actually.
All right. So he just couldn't carry. Like, you can only carry so much before you get tired, and then you start screwing up. Like, a lot of people don't understand. Like, I'm not blaming it on him. I'm just saying in general. A lot of people don't understand. Yes, this is like video games and stuff like that, but for them, it's the height of their competition. It's the biggest stage
Yeah,
all year, and
yeah,
it's going to take effect if your team starts struggling and you're like, I don't know, like the top player on your team. It's going to take an effect, and you're going to get tired.
yeah. And actually, the mid laners he was facing were actually very strong. So I can't act. And as I said, he didn't do bad at all, in my opinion. He just wasn't the carry everyone expected him to be.
Right.
Um, but he was facing uh, he was facing a quite tough competition. I actually think part of evil was CA impressed me from Team WE.
Mm-hmm.
Power of Evil is a really, really strong mid laner from Misfits. And yeah, basically they won against Flash Wolves, except the last game. And I don't think it's as much Bjergsen or anyone specifically as it was overall strategy and their mental games. And they look quite. Uh, I don't think they were mentally prepared for that game somehow. And I think since Flash Wolves were 0-5, they expected to win,
Mm-hmm.
and then things start going bad, and they were uh, quite desperate or something.
Could it be also the fact, like, I mean, I said earlier, they have the team and the stuff like that, and if one of the teammates start tilting, a guy has to carry and he gets worn out. It could also be the
Yeah,
fact, like, there's only three NA teams there,
yeah.
and
Actually, there's three teams from every region, basically, every major region.
well, I mean, yeah, but I mean, like, I'm sorry, how do I put this? I put it in a different way. North America wants to prove itself. They want to say, hey, we can, play with the MOBAs of the world. We don't want to be some punchline stuff like that. Could that
Hmm.
have hurt them a little bit too?
Yeah, I actually think that I think those players, some of them are quite. Um, I don't think Bjergsen himself, but I think some of those players are actually get a lot more influenced by these things. It hits harder. It hits some players harder.
Mm-hmm.
I think Double Lift is one of them. He's always and maybe that's the reason why he did so many mistakes in the last week and the last day of group stage. He actually was going. He was looking to pick fights he shouldn't and things like that. And I think it's probably because he wants to. Okay, so my team is losing, or my team may actually lose, and I have to push it.
Right.
I have to. I have to get this done, or I'll. And then when he fails, he's probably already thinking about, oh, uh, I failed at that play, so probably people are gonna give me shit for that, and people start getting annoyed and start to think about things outside the game, and those things actually hurt the team and the players. And since the second part of group stage is always all matchups in one day from the group.
Okay.
They didn't have time to recover from that because they probably needed more than other regions. As I said, I think they weren't that well prepared for the mental game.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so they didn't have time to recover and it started getting worse as time progressed. The same thing happened to Immortals, but in a different extent. They were like, okay, we can't lose, and they eventually lost. It's um, it's something that it's something that actually happens in every sort of competition. You
Okay.
actually get things get to your nerves, so you have to think about you have to think and prepare for that. And I don't think TSM was prepared for that possibility. Uh, as I said, they went to week two thinking they would win it all.
Mm-hmm.
So when it doesn't happen, it hits harder uh, than they expected, and they start playing worse and worse throughout the day, and up to the point where they actually fail to qualify.
Okay. So, what potential changes do you see for these guys?
For TSM specifically,
Yeah, specifically TSM.
I would say they can keep most of the roster. I would change the jungle. I will drop Sven's Karen. He has been. I think his playstyle doesn't fit the team so much, and he hasn't played to the world stage level at all.
Oh, okay.
Uh, and since the coach left, I'll probably try to uh, try to, I don't know, maybe I don't think they need to change staff. I think they could add someone like add some mental preparation. There are actually courses for that specifically out
Mm-hmm.
there. Uh, as I said, I'm poker pro, so we do a lot of that, and it's a big part of poker as well.
Okay.
Not let things, uh, not letting unexpected things, so to speak, affect you so much. And because poker is all about decision making,
Yep.
and actually, when you have to you have a lot of options to prepare for that, and I think that would help NA teams a lot. And you have to actually, as I said, don't come to the stage thinking you're the best thing ever. Work your way and respect a lot your opponents. Make and a big thing I would change a jungler because I think some games all game I don't think he performed well at all in any game, I would say. But in some games, he dropped the ball really, really hard,
Right.
and that's another reason. I don't like blaming one player for everything, but if I had to, I would definitely do that for the jungler, and I think he was the weakest link for TSM.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm like scrolling through some of the stuff people are saying about him. Like of course, first things first. It's Reddit. Take it with a grain of salt, because I usually do. But
Yeah.
more importantly, it seems like the team let a bunch of fans down. And if you watch traditional sports, we all know what happens when their team, lets them down. Specifically, a certain person. Like, they get angry, they get mad, they get upset,
Yeah,
they call them
people
jokers.
people are always looking for scapegoats, right?
Yeah, but I'm gonna look at it from the other side, the perspective of, did they wake up the next morning thinking, hey, like, I'm gonna send this tweet out, and then we're gonna go and fall on our face. I think one of the things is
I
they
think they were actually. I think they were. I don't think they did it to. I don't think they did it exactly to hype themselves. I think they were starting to believe,
okay.
and they were starting to create expectations for themselves, not necessarily like, oh, we're gonna we're gonna. I don't know. I think they were creating this expectation, and probably someone or the coach or I'm not. I don't know. Maybe they were like, "Oh, this is a good approach. We have to think we're gonna win," and that's actually a good approach. You think you can win, and playing to win is actually the thing you have to do. But you can't create an expectation to win every game, and you can't create the expectations that you are. You can't be overconfident, as we say.
Right.
And I think that's part of the thing. That's part of the problem with the tweets. They got to the point last week. They were confident. They knew within themselves that they could win.
Mm-hmm.
Those players are actually very confident themselves. Um, but when they actually start winning, probably someone said, "Oh, you know what? We should actually." That's something I imagine. So since every player tweeted this, I thought, oh, it's either a joke or they're always like, okay, we should go with the mentality that we're gonna win every game.
Okay.
And when they do that, they create within themselves expectations that when things start to go wrong, they lose one game, then they lose another, and then they start to lose the third game. They are becoming very desperate about that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and when they see that they are in a tie break game, that if they and think something goes wrong, they start to lose that confidence to a point that they are afraid or they are trying to overcompensate and or have some sort of bad reaction to the feeling
Right.
that I. So that's why I say they weren't prepared mentally to take this. They took an approach that they thought was good, but wasn't. So it backfired somehow.
Yeah. So, but all right. We got about 10, 15 minutes left. Uh,
Oh, that was quick. I didn't realize the time.
oh yeah. No. Let's. I know you haven't really read up on it, and it's a little confusing. But according to Jacob Wolf of ESPN, he got
Mm,
sources to tell him that Team Dignitas, one of the original teams in the North American LCS, was actually denied applications for by Riot
yeah.
Games for to get into the league. Um, the other three, of course, is Solo Mid, Liquid, or and oh no, I forgot the last one. Oh no,
Counter Logic
there
Game,
we go.
probably.
Yes, Counter Logic.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, Counter.
my bad. Um, one of the things they're speculating is the NBA owner Joe Lacob and his son were accepted into the league earlier this week. Now, if you don't know who those guys are, they're the guys that own the Golden State Warriors, the NBA basketball team Golden State Warriors.
Mm-hmm.
They got accepted into the league, and they have to pay 13 million over several years, 10 million because it's a 10 million buy-in, and then 3 million to replace an existing franchise.
Yeah.
My question is why? Like, I don't know if it was the same thing that happened to Rogan, the Overwatch League, but if Dignitas sent their application in, had the money set up, which is Dignitas, so they're a bigger esports org, they could definitely pull that money in.
Yeah.
Why don't you just give them the spot?
I'm not sure about right decision making about the franchising. I don't think anyone is. I think maybe they. If I could venture a guess, I would probably say that. I don't know. I think Dignitas has been there for a really long time, but they have dropped to Challenger before, and they haven't never been a really successful team overall.
Okay.
And since we're giving up relegation, I'm definitely not sure about that, but maybe Riot thought, oh, Team Dignitas may put the money in everything, but they can't actually perform to our expectations because of I don't know the reason. I'm not
Oh.
involved in the team or no.
Oh, okay.
But
So I mean, what we're doing, we're speculating why there hasn't been no
yeah,
official release of why they got denied. Right? Hasn't said anything
yeah,
yet. Dig hasn't said anything yet. But I'm just kind of surprised that like one of those four original teams is just gone. It's just like, all right, bye, see you later. And
yeah. That's. I think that's. I think this announcement and also the fact that uh, uh, there was another announcement that Paris Saint Germain
mhm.
from France actually dropped their League of Legends plans for now, and I think those things hurt a little bit, but the game will recover from that. But right now it feels bad for it. It's at least it gives me the impression that um, that Riot is not making enough of an effort to keep teams in the league or to preserve their they do a lot to preserve the players specifically, as far as I know, but they don't seem to care much for the teams. So they're looking to they don't mind
Oh.
replacing or uh, excluding some teams or things like that.
Oh, okay, I see what you're
Uh,
saying. That's a shame. Hopefully, they'll Because I mean, they're the biggest e-
The
MOBA,
biggest esports.
maybe, yeah, and
Yeah,
the biggest esport going. But
yeah,
when you have the biggest esport going, but Dota comes in, it's just like, all right, guys, we'll give you X amount of more money to play, and then the Overwatch League is like, all right, we'll give you this type of money, these benefits for this season. It's not going to be much longer till they catch up to Riot.
yeah. The problem, I think, it's actually sort of on a pedestal right now. They actually think they are. Not they actually think they are. They know they are the best, the biggest esport out there, and they think they can be picky about their partners, and that's actually a good thing, picky. But overall for potential partners, but I think they are not negotiating with their partners well enough. They are not. They're not. How do we put this? Um, they're not giving the teams enough right now. We've seen European teams complain a lot about that before. We've seen open letters from teams
Hmm.
saying that they don't get enough money from Riot or from anything that, and Riot. We've seen Riot completely banish teams before and things like that. And this is this is I don't know, this feels bad from outsider perspective.
Hmm.
But somehow, uh, I think there are so many people willing to be involved in League of Legends right now because it's the biggest, and there's there's so many people watching it that Riot thinks that okay, things are gonna be they're gonna happen my way or no way at all,
Right.
and they can actually make these sort of moves. Like, okay, I don't think you're good enough for what I'm. Yeah.
Right. All right. So, but all right, we have a couple minutes left here. I am going to switch the screen.